Let's get the latest on the Russian war in Ukraine now. There are reports Russia has unleashed hypersonic missiles against an arms depot, and 200 Ukrainian soldiers are feared dead in a separate attack. A quarter of Ukrainians have been forced to leave their homes, more than 6.5 million people internally displaced, and civilian casualties continue to climb. Joining me now, Australian Strategic Policy Institute Executive Director Peter Jennings. Peter, thank you for your time. The reason the United States and NATO gave for not doing more in Ukraine, for not having a no-fly zone, for example, are owing to concerns that Putin may pull the nuclear trigger. Do you think nuclear war is a genuine threat, a possibility here?
Well, it's not a risk to take lightly, but Putin is not suicidal, even though he's a risk taker. I think what we've seen here, Shari, is Joe Biden has deterred himself by every time the issue is raised simply saying, well, this is World War III. If we now see a stalemate emerging in Ukraine, what that means is that Russia and Ukrainian forces could be fighting each other for a long time. NATO is going to have to do more. They're already supplying lethal equipment, which is shooting down Russian helicopters and aircraft and shooting Russian tanks. I believe that Biden is just going to have to think harder about what sort of support we can provide Ukraine. Because so far they've fought the Russians to a standstill. They've done brilliantly, better than everyone expected. And I think they are going to continue to stop Russia from being able to take Kyiv, the capital, and really limit Russia to doing things like using these hypersonic weapons. So really now the challenge for the US and all of us is to work out how can we bring them to a point where they will stop their military operations, because clearly they're not winning on the ground.
Yeah. Peter, I'd like to ask you about China's role in supporting Russia at a time when it's subject to heavy global sanctions. What is China's endgame here, do you think? Is it turning Russia into a vassal state?
That's China's endgame with regard to every country in the world, Shari, including our own, and it certainly is with regard to Russia. China wins from a Russia which is weakened and detested globally. The risk for China, of course, is that it has a second bad little brother. It already has North Korea as one of its few friends globally. Now it has Putin. I doubt that Xi Jinping was expecting Putin to engage in such dreadful military slaughter in the invasion of Ukraine. So yes, China can see itself as becoming even more the top dog among the autocracies, the authoritarian countries, but it's also going to be concerned about damage to its own reputation from being aligned way too closely to such a nasty person as Vladimir Putin.
In The Australian, Greg Sheridan writes that Putin is under great pressure. He says he's deeply paranoid, isolated, and his mind full of extreme Russian nationalism. If he's in this frame of mind, if this is right, how does the rest of this war play out, do you think?
I think Russia has, in a strategic sense, lost already. And really that means Putin has lost. He may not realise it yet, but his position is going to become untenable as long as we can keep helping the Ukrainians to keep up the fight. And I'm sure that will be NATO's intention. So, you know, Putin has always been a risk taker, a gambler. But as I said, he's not suicidal. He doesn't, I think, want to end in a nuclear conflagration, which is going to be, frankly, the end of him and the end of Russia. So really the challenge now is to try to find ways to get him to the peace table and to then make it possible for Ukraine to come back better and with Western investment, hopefully stronger in the long term.
Peter Jennings, I really appreciate your insights this evening. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Shari.